Hey, it's David with No Chaser, and this is take 5 or whatever. You were probably watching a person slowly go insane. I tried to record this the first time, and the cats here were just hopping around like Roombas on hyperspeed, just making noises and playing with the cord. And then I tried to do it again, and the furnace kicked on like air conditioning for an aircraft carrier. And because it gets dark at 3 p.m. here and cold and miserable, and welcome to the Midwest. And then the mic just didn't work. It might not even be working now. I'm starting to lose it. I'm starting to forget what even the topic was about. But it is about self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is very important in recovery. Thesis, and now explanation of thesis. Self-forgiveness is, I remember a young thinking I was wise and sage me in meetings and group therapy where, I would say some fucking profound statement and just dropping knowledge bombs on people. God, I was a douche. But I would say, I struggle with forgiveness a lot. But the person that I'd struggle forgiving the most, dramatic pause, was me, man. And while that is, kind of a douchey thing to do, it's not completely untrue. And I think there are major pitfalls people run into in sort of their recovery progress from not forgiving themselves. And there's a couple of reasons why I believe this occurs. At least for me, one would just be like the emotional sort of reasons of I couldn't forgive myself because the memories and the ideas of me behaving this way would just sting so much. And it would be hard, especially if there was things that I had done to people that were still active in my life or people I know hadn't forgiven me. And I just affected them like basically their life was worse in a sense because I was in it. I would think about these things I do, and I couldn't get over it. And, one of the biggest issues is that, humility it plays out really differently than a lot of ways that I used to think. I would think that being humble is reminding myself of these flaws and terrible things I've done. But in a way, you have to imagine yourself, and I would try to do this as like, I'm not as significant as I think I am. Now, this is not to downplay the reverberations of the outcomes that I cause through my bad behavior and destructive elements of myself. This is not doing that, but there's so many times where you just think that a perfect example is I know plenty of people that would make amends to other people as they do like through the AA program, or just in general through life, they would ask for forgiveness. And there was one fear. The one fear would be that the person would be like, no, fuck you. I'm not forgiving you for that thing. That would be terrible. I think secretly, the other fear that might even be bigger is the fear that they would respond with, wait, what? What are you talking about? That the thing that you had drawn up in your head is so big and monumental and this totally unforgivable thing you've done, they don't even remember. And the reason why I think that sometimes that's a bigger fear is it cuts against us as how important we are and how influential we are in each other's lives and basically how little control you have in people, places, and things. And this almost parlays into one of the other roadblocks of not being able to forgive myself that I'd have. And it's almost ideological where, plenty of times I just have this drill instructor in my head that would just do this like sort of tough love thing. And it never works. And yet it's still very pervasive in my mind. And I think, no, you can't just forgive yourself for this. What kind of piece of shit would just wave off this guilt that you should feel? You should feel bad for this. You should hold on to this as if this is affecting anyone positively, but you should, because you're a terrible person if you just wipe the slate clean. Now, this is stupid for many reasons. One of the first initial reasons is that forgiveness isn't just approving a behavior, and it's not completely a wiping a slate clean. It's not when you do it to others, and it's not when you do it to yourself. It's acknowledgement. And it's the idea of just thinking that this has run its course, right? That the past has to have some finality in my mind. This can't just keep replaying, People try to learn this stuff through PTSD treatment, where, again, this past, these moments, these things have to have finality. They can't keep living pointlessly to where it causes negative effects in your life. And when you try to do this thing where you think that you're unforgivable, the things you've done in your past is unforgivable, you're letting it play out. And in a sense, too, it is narcissistic and selfish to impose this sort of morality that you believe you have or should have, that no, I can't forgive myself. I mean, it's just, it is sort of this like mechanism to like promote self-pity to kind of keep you back in the terrible behaviors you were doing before. Because that is a slippery slope to where if you think that you're like unforgivable and that what you've done is so terrible and awful that it can never be like, you know, it can never be forgotten, or rather forgiven. It can never be just like, okay, and you deserve happiness or anything like that. It can never be that. That is not only not helping you, but that's not helping others, because it is holding you back from making progress. It is holding you back from bettering yourself. Holding on to these anchors in your mind is not doing anything for anybody. I mean, honestly, if you think you're being selfish and forgiving yourself, think of it for others. Forgive yourself for others, because like that's one of the things that you need to do to get better. And like, I would just, you know, I would be stuck in this idea to where, again, it was almost this noble struggle of like self-flagellation, where I would just think, you know, you have to be pained by your past and you need this sort of like punishment to yourself. You've sentenced yourself to this mental misery for however long, and yet there's no end date in sight for it, and you're just not a good person, and you just need to be better. Again, this bullshit sort of tough love thing that never works and doesn't really make any sense at all, and just ultimately leads back to you engaging in the behaviors and actions that you were doing before. Because it's like, you know, I think, therefore I am. It's kind of like, I think I'm a piece of shit, therefore I am a piece of shit. You just keep calling yourself this, and you think that you're unforgivable. Ultimately, I mean, at least for me, it would just revert back to me doing more unforgivable things. And look, I get it. I'm not going to, you know, if you're watching this and you're not, you don't have a personal experience with alcoholism addiction, as in you were engaged with it yourself, but other people in your life were, like, I totally sympathize with the notion that, you know, seeing people just kind of forgive themselves in the sense when they've done, you know, pretty reprehensible things, could be like, no, screw you. They should feel bad. You've done like bad things that are guilt worthy. You should feel guilt. And again, this kind of goes back to that idea that this forgiveness is not approval. You know, I mean, it just a lot of times something that's helped me is just, imagine how I've like have forgiven other people that have like wronged me in my life. And I've actually found it pretty easily. I mean, in a life where I have done things where I've seen the like Jekyll and Hyde version of myself, where I've acted in ways that was like incomprehensible to me, but I did these things, and I seeing how these like flaws and these things were manifestations of like suffering. I could see that in other people, but I just couldn't apply it to myself. And that's something I had to just practice on doing. It's just like, imagine the way that you've forgiven others. A lot of these things are the same things you did. Why can't you see that in yourself? Is it that sort of like ideological thing? Is it just the emotional thing? I mean, you know, if you want to think of it as like, this needs to be a struggle because of the sordid past you have, I mean, it is a struggle to forgive oneself, because it's not like one of those things where you just go into confessional and you say however Hail Marys or whatever, and then boom, you're good. Like, you're forgiven. It will, memories and the feelings you have about the past will keep coming back up. They will. It's just not like an end to this where you plant your stake and there is now a line of demarcation between how I felt about the past then and how I feel about it now. It is a forgiveness, whether it's of others or of yourself, is like an ongoing process. You know, it'd be nice. There are so many things that would be nice if they could just be done. And it's just like you accepted the terms of agreement of this new mental like way of being. But a lot of it just, for me, it has totally not worked that way. And I know that again, it's so funny how some things, the opposite can be true, in the sense where you think that you're just righteous in this, like not forgiving yourself and not letting go of the past of the things you've done. It's kind of just that humility plays out in just very different ways than what I used to think. You know, I used to think I'm humbling myself of thinking of these bad things that I did. I'm humbling myself I won't think I'm better than anybody else because I remember these awful things I did and I still bear this guilt. It's like, dude, no, the real humility is just understanding that these were flaws and making a commitment to not do them again, but being able to let them go, to not attach so much significance on them as if you are all powerful. Honestly, like one thing that has super helped me is just to play down the level of significance I think I have in other people's lives. And it's just a lot easier. It's a lot easier route in doing so. Anyways, I'm just, you know what, I will cut that off then before any other sort of calamity happens where, I don't know, it starts hailing or some shit that like interrupts this thing again. But anybody out there that is still struggling, I wish best for you, and I hope you can just hold on and make it through. People that are doing well, you know, keep it up. I hope you're bearing the fruits of labor and recovery. People that are in a rut, just you know, honestly, on a little personal level, I've been in a rut too. You know, it might have something to do with getting dark at 3 p.m. and cold and awful, but I'm holding on to the good things and just really focusing on that. I hope the same can be done for you or anybody that's just watching this that is interested in it. I appreciate that. And like the socials, I don't know, like, subscribe, or something. One of these days I'm going to find a way to do this self-promotion thing that I don't like. I hate it so much. I'll find a way. But anyways, to all of you, be well.